I want to get better at LeetCode, so I'm documenting all the questions I do. So feel free to follow along if you'd like. So starting off with toSum, we are given an array of numbers and a target, and we have to return the indexes where the numbers add up to that target. So if I open this up real quick, an array of any size, like I said, the value at index I and the value at index j equal target, we're going to return the index. So the first thing that comes to mind when I do a question like this, sorry, spoilers here, is a nested for loop. I want to do a nested for loop because I need to check two values specifically to add up to a target. So if I'm doing one for loop, I'm only checking one value at a time. So if I'm doing a nested for loop, I can check multiple. So if you need help real quick visualizing nested for loops, as you can see here, we're going to have a variable starting at 0 and I is less than 3, iterating up 1 each time. And inside, we're going to have variable j set to 0 and less than 6. So it's going to go from 0 to 5. And we're going to go up 1 each time. And it's going to print I and j each time. So first output is going to be I, which is 0, and j, which is 0. And then the next one, we're still in the inside loop. So still I 0, and then it's going to go up 1 each time until we reach 5. So as you can see, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, 0, 5. We reached 5. So as you can see, j less than 6. So we're going to go back out to this loop. And now we're going to go start over at I equals 1. And we're going to go the same thing. We're going to go inside the loop and go each time. So 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, etc. So as you can see, that's just a real quick way to visualize it. I'm more of a visual learner, so this helps me if I ever want to learn something. So yeah. So to make this, we're given these two parameters, the target and the array. So let's start off with the outside loop. So for int I is equal to 0, I is going to be less than nums.length minus 1. And then we're going to go up 1 each time. And real quick, I'll explain this right after I write the inside loop. So to make it nested, we're going to write another loop inside of it. So for int I and for int j. So we don't actually want to start at 0 for this one because we're already here and we want to compare the value after it. So we're going to set that equal to I plus 1, which is just the value 1 over. And when you're going to nums.length minus 1, that's going to be the value, the second last value. Because if you think of it, I is going to be the first value, j is going to be the second value, and then you're going to go up, and then j will reach that last value. I doesn't actually need to go to that value. So j is going to be equal to I plus 1, and j is going to be less than nums.length. Apparently I don't know how to spell too, my bad. So, and then we're just going to go up 1 each time, like that example I showed. So now we have the nested loop, but how do we actually want to find the target? So instead of, like that example showed, a print statement, we're going to have to do a comparison in here. So we're going to make an if statement of when the value at index I plus the value at index j is equal to the target. That's the answer, right? So if we look on the instructions here, we need to return an array of the indexes. So we're going to return an integer array with those given indexes, like such. So this is if the target is able to be found, but sometimes you might not be able to find the target. So in that case, we're just going to return null. You can return anything. I just decided to return null just because it doesn't really matter. So let's try running our code, see if we have any issues. We have a compiler error. Oh, forgot a semicolon. And accepted runtime is 0 milliseconds. So let's open that up. So it's going to go through the cases, and as you can see, the code worked perfectly for all these examples. So yeah, this is just a simple way to do two-sum in Java. And real quick, just to touch up on time complexity and space complexity. Space complexity here is really easy. You're not making new storage. You're not making a new array to store anything or anything. So space complexity is just constant, O of 1. And for time complexity, we're going to look at the two loops here, because everything else is just going to be constant. Like this is constant, as you know. So time complexity is always in the worst case. So the most amount of iterations for this loop is going to be the length, the entire, like we'd have to go through the entire length of this, and we'd have to go through the entire length of this. So we'd have to go over the entire array basically. So this loop here is going to be O of n, and this loop here is going to be O of n. And adding those together, that's going to be O of n squared. So very simple. Time complexity is going to be O of n squared. For this is just a brute force example, so not the most efficient, but does work well with small values. And the space complexity is constant. So yeah, that's problem number 1. I'm going to try to be consistent here and uploading more videos. So yeah, thanks for following along.